Welcome to the channel where you will find love, laughs, and DIYs. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I am so happy and thankful that you stopped in to spend some time and craft with me this evening. This week, I jumped out of my comfort zone, and I'm doing something I've never really done before. It's Primitive Farmhouse. I'm so excited for you to see it, so we're just going to jump on in. The first one I'm calling peas and carrots, and I spelled carrots funny. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with this little bunny form from the Dollar Tree, and I have a drawstring bag. Now this one's way too big, so any size you have will work perfectly. So since my bag was way too big, I'm going to cut just a little top portion off of it. I'm going to flip it inside out, and then I'm just going to glue that bottom part back down together. We're just totally making a brand new bag right here. And then I'm just going to flip it back the right way, and it's going to look like it was actually made that way. Perfect. Now, since we're going to have this bag cinched together real tight, we don't need that much rope. So I pulled it the way that I'm going to be using it, and then I cut it and tied it back together the way that I needed it so it wouldn't have so much rope. And I'm taking one of these little makeup brushes that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I got mine off of Amazon, but they're at the Dollar Tree. And I'm using that distressed oxide in the color Weathered Twigs. I'm just going all the way around it and giving it good shading and kind of dirtying it up a little. I started off using the color Cashew by Waverly, and it was just like the same color as this wood already. I didn't want that, so I took the color Plaster, and I'm going to give it just a very, I guess you'd call it like a wet, dry brush. Like I want a little bit of the wood to show on his little feet and his ears, so I didn't want it to be so perfect. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm getting my Weathered Twigs, that Distress Oxide again, and you can buy this off Amazon. All this stuff I mentioned from Amazon are in my Amazon store. I'm using my little makeup brush, and all I'm doing is going all the way around this bunny, and I'm kind of shading it in and kind of dirtying him up just a little bit. So I go a little bit darker, if you notice, kind of around the feet, around the ears, and then I just use a baby wipe to kind of calm it down if I get a little bit too wild and too dark. You just do it to your own personal taste and the way that you want it. I also kind of went all over the middle part of the bunny too, because we're going to dirty him up a little bit. And don't worry, we go right back over him with that plaster color in a minute in case you get too wild there. Now here, I didn't like the gathered twigs, so I went ahead and used that Tobacco Road by Dixie Belle. Now, to me, this is what I think on the Tobacco Road Dixie Belle. That Waverly Antique Wax is just about the exact same color. So if you have that Waverly Antique Wax, you can use it to shade him in too. I just felt that Gathered Twigs was a little bit too light for what I wanted. So here I'm dry brushing back over him with that color Plaster. I'm just using what's on my brush, literally anywhere where I got too wild with the dark. Here I'm taking two little strips of cotton muslin that I had got. I'm pretty sure I got it from Walmart. It's just cotton muslin and it rips really easy. I had to use two strips because mine was just about an inch thick and I want about a 2-inch. I just want it to go behind this little wood tag and so it'll stick out, if that makes sense. I glued those two little pieces of cotton muslin together. Now I had coffee stained these cotton muslin. That's why it's already that darker color. And then here I'm just kind of fiddling around with my little bag so I can figure out exactly how it's going to look when I put that little sign on the front. Now my bag was still too wide, so I curled the edges in, put a little bit of hot glue, and like just folded them over, and you're never going to know the difference. Now here I'm just putting glue all over the back, and I'm going to glue that down to the bottom portion of my bunny. The string was still too long, so I cut a little bit of it off and retied it. I was looking for something with a flat edge, and all I could find was my little pop socket thing that goes on the back of my phone, and I'm going to put the word carrot on here. Now, Y'all would laugh at me if you knew how many times I did this word carrot. I bet I had to throw away 3 or 4 of these wood tags, and I'm talking front and back. I'm not kidding. I'm going to get me some of those little clickable stamps that are smaller than these, and these drive me crazy because when you push down on the ink, it gets it all in a square around it, and I cannot stand that. And the word carrot was a little long for this tiny tag, and that's how I kind of come up with the word carrot, C-A-R-U-T, to kind of put you in the mind that it's a little bunny rabbit that don't know any better, and that's just the way he spells it. Hey, it was quick thinking. I had to do something because I was so mad at myself for not being able to make this look right. I mean, I was already kind of running on a time crunch because I had a stomach bug this week, and that put me behind. I had to take Roxy to the vet, and then just all my normal things. I keep my grandson a few days a week. And so, guys, I was just trying. I was running against the clock trying to get this done. So, yeah, I ended up spelling it C-A-R-U-T-S, carrots. And I thought that was cute. I don't know. And then I just went around it with the weathered twigs, that distressing oxide, and I really distressed this really well. Y'all are absolutely going to love the way this turns out. And I think I did okay for not ever really doing primitive farmhouse before. So I just glued that word carrots onto my little piece of cotton muslin, and I'm going to glue that to the very front of my little drawstring bag. But make sure you glue it where you're going to be able to see it. Now here I'm going to take 3 carrots, and this was just a personal preference. I'm going to wrap them in different types of fabric. The first one I am wrapping from a bow that I got from burlappedfabric.com, and I'll leave their link below in case you're looking for this exact one. I love this ribbon. It's so pretty. And I'm just putting a little glue and wrapping it around because that way you can still see that orange through it, but it's not that bright, hey, see me orange, you know? Because the thing is with Primitive, it's really muted tones. It's kind of dark. There is no really bright things when it comes to Primitive that I've seen. So I was really trying to tone it down, but still kind of stay true to myself, you know? And then I use this beautiful, on the second carrot, I'm using this gorgeous homespun that I got from Hobby Lobby. That's where I always get mine at. And it's about 1 inch thick. You just cut it and then you just rip it with your hands and it rips straight. And I go kind of upward and around. And then when I get to the top, I just glue that down. And the greenery that I'm using is from some flowers that I got from the Dollar Tree. They're so pretty. And what I did was just cut it off of the stem. It's actually called greenery. It kind of looks like Dusty Miller to me. But anyways, I just put a little bit of it in the top. And then when I fold the sides of that fabric over, it looks like a pretty little carrot. And I had a little bit of trouble getting the stem into this one. So what I did was just take a little skewer, make a little bit bigger hole, and put some glue on the end of my little greenery and popped it right in there. And on that very last one, I'm wrapping it in that cotton muslin that I had stained in tea. I said I had stained it in coffee, but I'm about 99% sure that it was actually tea that I stained it in. So I just went up around and put that greenery in the same as I did the other two. And so I have a cotton muslin, a striped one, and then that pretty lace. I took that Dixie Belle wax again called Tobacco Road and just put a little bit out and dabbed it on the end of my makeup brush. And I'm just kind of brisking over all of my little carrots to dirty them up a little bit and make them look a little bit more vintage and primitive. I took a nice long piece of that beautiful homespun that I have, and I'm going to tie this around her neck just to kind of make it look like a little makeshift bow there. Now, all that's going to be covered up for the most part, so I didn't want to go crazy on the bow. Just a simple little bow will be beautiful and plenty. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of that Spanish moss into that little pouch and stick my 3 little carrots down in there. And I realized that Spanish moss needed to be sticking up a little bit more and that my carrot tops were way too big. So I just kind of trimmed the top of those off, and then I'm going to add a little bit more Spanish moss so that it looks right. I really wanted some of that Excelsior to use, but I didn't have any, so I just used this Spanish moss, and it'll work just fine. But I think Excelsior would have looked better. Now here I'm just cutting out 2 circles out of that beautiful homespun that I have, and I'm going to glue these down to the bunny's feet. Now I'm going to take some of this folk art paint that I got at Walmart. It's called Crushed Coral, and this is going to be the inside of her ears. Now, I had very, very little on my brush. I actually just kind of did it dry brushing technique. Now, that first one I put on there, I went way too much, so I just wiped it down with the baby wipe and then kind of went around. And you want to go around almost like in an oval, because that's what the little bunny's ears look like. And the only heart that I could find, I wanted a wood heart, but all I could find was these little foam hearts that had glitter. And I painted it in crushed coral also. So then I just glued the little heart down upside down, because this is going to be the bunny's nose. And then I took a dowel, just a round dowel, and at first I had dipped it in the black ink and to make her eyes, but it does so much better in black paint. I go ahead and leave in all the boo-boos too, just so you can see. But see, whenever I do the ink, how it just barely shows up. And here is when I use the rich black. It is the Home Decor brand, and look how much better that turns out. It's just perfect little circles. You may have to just daub it 1 or 2 times just to make sure you get a good full coverage. And then I took the color plaster again, and I put it on the end of a very small paintbrush, and we're just putting 2 little dots up at the top for her eyes. I'm taking 2 of these little pieces of the Dollar Tree wire. It comes in the automotive section, and it's not very like harsh wire. I think it has some type of a plastic coating on it, but I just cut 2 whiskers on each side, and we're just going to slightly glue those underneath the nose, and then I trimmed them off because you just cut them to whatever your personal preference is. Now we're going to put her to the side, and we're going to work on her little hair bow. What I did was cut about 4-inch strips. It may be more like 3-inch strips, but I have a piece of drop cloth. I have 2 sets of the little striped homespun, and then I have a piece of that beautiful lace ribbon. I just made X formations, and I'm just tying it in the center, and that's going to be her little hair bow. It's just a simple little messy bow where you place your X's together and then you tie it in the middle. And you want to glue this a little bit higher up on her ear there, because you don't want it to cover up her little eyes, but you do want that hole to be covered up on the very top of the bunny, because unless you're going to use it for a hanger, but I'm not using it for a hanger, so I definitely wanted that piece covered up. And it just fell just beautifully, and then you just kind of trim it up. If you want to dovetail the ends, dovetail them, but I just kind of cut them at an angle, and then I took one of my beautiful little buttons and just placed it right in the center and added an even smaller button, because that's kind of my signature thing. And then here you see I just trimmed them off kind of at an angle. I took a very small little tomato basket that I have, and I'm just going to dry brush it in the color plaster. You don't even have to paint it at all. I just wanted it dry brushed, but I very, very lightly dry brushed it because I still wanted that beautiful wood to show through. And then I also kind of dry brushed over it on the inside, because you will be able to see some of that part. Then I'm going to take some of that Spanish moss, and I'm going to fill up my basket. Then I realized I needed to put some rocks in the bottom of the basket because it will be top heavy. So put you something heavy down in the bottom of your basket. I took a dowel, and I'm going to glue it to the back of my bunny, and just a piece of fabric because that helps it stick a little bit better. so it doesn't come apart. And I'm just going to glue that dowel to the very back of my basket here. And I had already placed my heavy rocks, not many, just maybe 15 to 20 of the little pebbles from Dollar Tree inside that basket there. And I glued my little bunny there. Then I just finished it off by taking these 3 little eggs that I got from the Dollar Tree, or they're actually kind of big eggs, and I stuck those in the basket. You can put any eggs you want in there. I hope you like this one.
I saw the ending before the movie was done. I got thick skin because I've been burned before. I got baggage that you don't know of. Learn the hard way not to trust anyone. I'm not letting anyone get too close. I'm a wild one, I'm alright, love on my own. You probably think I'm hurting, but darling, I'll be fine. It's just a little heartbreak, and heartbreak fades with time. You probably think I'm broken, I swear that.
The next one is called bunny bait. You're going to need a total of 12 shims. We're going to make carrots out of these shims. Now, you can get shims very cheap at any hardware store, and they also sell them at Walmart for just a couple of dollars. And all you're going to do is just put some glue down and glue them together. And like I said, it was 4 for each carrot, so you need a total of 12. I found the best way to put these together and make them even, because sometimes, you know, with shims being so cheap, sometimes they're kind of uneven and kind of warped a little bit. So what I did was put the glue on them and turn them sideways and use my hands to make sure that they all came out even. I wanted to take just a moment to ask you, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit that little red subscribe button and become a part of our family. We would love to have you, and we always have room. And hey, hit the like button if you're really enjoying this video. It helps put me out there in front of people who've never seen my content before. Now, what you do here is get you some color of orange. I used Pumpkin Spice by Dixie Belle, and I am almost dry brushing because I didn't go like a full coat. I wanted some of that wood to show. So I guess you could say I am strongly dry brushing over this in the pumpkin spice color. The second one, I picked the color Celery by Waverly because I really like it. It's a very pretty muted green, and it goes perfect with Primitive Farmhouse. And I did the exact same technique, almost like a very strong dry brushing. Then on the very last carrot, I used the color Plaster because I needed some type of an off-white color, and I did the exact same technique like a heavy dry brush. Then I used the Dixie Belle Tobacco Road again to put some shadows on these and kind of age it and make it look vintagey. I went around all the edges really well, and I just used like a little distressing brush too, and I kind of added it darker around the edges, but I added it all over these little carrots. Then I took some of that beautiful homespun that I have, and I only cut about 1 inch, and then I ripped it all the way down because I love that beautiful frayed look, and that goes to the Primitive farmhouse, both Primitive and Farmhouse. And then I used that beautiful cotton muslin, and I did the same thing. I used about 1 inch strips and ripped it down. And then I just made some beautiful figure 8 bows, very simple. What I did was make it with the cotton muslin to go in the back, and then with that homespun to go in the front. So I literally had 2 bows placed together. Now, if you don't know how to make the figure 8 bows, they're very simple. You just make your little figure 8 and you pinch it down in the center. And then I like to use jute twine to tie it together. And I like to tie mine in the very front, you see. And then I just left that jute string on there because it lends to the look of the primitive farmhouse. And like I said, I did this a total of 3 times, but after I made that first bow, I realized that I wanted to use some of this beautiful lace that one of my subscribers had sent me. Thank you, Miss Kathy, for sending me that beautiful, all the Snoopy stuff and all the lace. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and this is the lace that she sent me. It's a really pretty white lace, and from what I'm understanding, it was her mom's, and it's really old. So we're going to place that in the back, and we ended up with a total of 3 bows. We have the lace, the muslin, and the homespun, and they're all tied together with the jute cord. And what you're going to do is just put a good dab of glue on the top of your carrot, and you know the side of the carrot is going to be the front of your carrot. So pick whichever your best side is, and then you're just going to place your bows right there on the side. Then I took a coordinating button, and I'm going to place it right in the center. On this one, I used an orange button, and of course, I used a off-white button for the plaster and the green color for the celery. Now here, I'm using these doggone stamps again, and goodness gracious, here we go. You know I just love these things to death, not? And so I made the word bunny bait, and it actually didn't turn out too bad, and it kind of looks like a little kitty put it together, so I kind of like that. And I'm going to use that distressed oxide again in weathered twigs and go all around this and kind of dirty it up and make it look real primitive. I'm going to take about 2 inches of that muslin like I did before on the first one, and I'm going to glue the bunny bait sign down to it and just cut off the edges. Well, actually, I cut it and then ripped it so that it would have that beautiful frayed edge. And I'm going to tie some jute cord around this little sign that says bunny bait. And we're going to place this around the little button on the orange carrot, because since carrots are orange, I wanted the carrot, that orange carrot, to be kind of the main one, and it's going to go in the center, and it's the one that's going to have the word bunny bait on it. I did just use a little dab of glue to make sure that that is going to stick around that button really well. And then I just cut my ends down to the fashion that I wanted them. And here again, I'm just taking that Dollar Tree flowers called greenery, and this is how you do it. You just cut the flower off and you pull off that little stem part or the leaf part. And I just took a little bit of my Spanish moss. I'm going to glue that to the very top of my carrots. Make sure you protect those little fingers because they help you out every day. Be nice to them. And if you need to make a tiny little haircut, go ahead and make one. I had to cut the little end of the leaves off because it was too long, and then I just glued it right down inside of that Spanish moss, and it turned out beautifully. Now, I try to position the greenery right behind where the buttons are because it just looked right in that place. And I did this to all my little carrots. I did the Spanish moss, and then I added the greenery to the top of each one. And that's all there is to this one. I'm going to show you how I would style it in my home in a simple basket.
Tick-tock, the clock keeps ticking. I don't know what I should do, and I wish you would be right here with me. My mind is filled with pictures of when we used to dance, but now I don't know where you are. I missed you so bad, won't you come back to me? I've got you in my head, you're all that I see. I've lost all my chances, I know that I am too late. I'm thinking of you.
The last one is a beautiful egg wreath. Now this one's really easy. I'm going to use 2 of the 14-inch wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. Mine happened to be kind of a yellowy gold color, so I spray painted them white. And I'm going to need a total of 15 to 16 of these beautiful eggs. I'm going to paint 3 of them the color Prom Queen, which is this beautiful baby blue color. I'm going to paint another 3 of them Apothecary, which is my favorite green color. 3 of them are going to be this color called Liquid Sunshine. And then I'm just going to use this color called Seashell Pink, and it's folk art. And this color is called Lilac by Home Decor. Now, I'm not going to show myself painting these because it's just the same thing. I'm just painting them. And I just want to let you know that I had 8 of those styrofoam eggs and about 8 of the little plastic ones. I far liked the styrofoam eggs better because you can stick them in that skewer and they were so much easier to paint. And they didn't have the speckles on them. And so you just had like a clean slate and it was so much easier to do it that way. So you just pick 5 different colors of paint and you're going to paint 3 eggs in each of those colors and you will come out with a total of 15 eggs. Now here's my wreath forms after I painted them white, and I only painted the outside white because you're never going to see the inside. And I'm taking some of that Spanish moss that I got when I was down in Florida, and you're just going to put your Spanish moss all around the inside of your wreath. You don't have to go crazy with it and really pack it full because you got to remember you're going to have that the eggs in here too, and so it's going to look fuller than what it is. Then I just took my eggs and went all the way around the circle, and I stayed in the same pattern that I had all the way around. I did green, yellow, blue, purple, pink, and then I repeated that, and it just comes out so beautiful, I think, when you do it this way. The next thing that I did was take 4 tie wraps, and I'm going to tie wrap these 2 wreaths together. What you're going to do is place it around 2 of those rungs, and if possible, you need to try to put your tie wraps where the little line goes across. That way you're never even going to see that, if that makes sense what I'm saying there. Now, I put my tie wraps in the front here, but now that I think about it, it would have been so much smarter if I would have flipped this wreath over and placed it on the back side. That way you would have never seen those tie wraps whatsoever. But like I said, I try to figure out the hard stuff so that you don't have to, and I try to make it easier for you. Now, if there's any places where you need a little haircut and need to cut this Spanish moss, just cut it. It's not going to hurt a thing. And there may be some areas that need to be a little bit fuller, so either you can stick some more Spanish moss in there, or you can just use what you already have and try to stretch it out. Now, here I have some of the little wooden bunnies that are at the Dollar Tree right now, and I'm using my little crocodile tool, and all it does is make holes in anything you can imagine. So I'm just going to make 2 little holes in the bunny's ears, and I'm going to weave this black and white thread in and out of their little ears because I wanted to hang them up in the center of the wreath. And I wanted to use black and white bows on these little bunnies too. You remember at Christmas I had bought those little tiny bows off of Amazon. That's what I'm using here. And I'm going to make one a little boy in the middle and put him a bow tie on. And the other 2 are little sister bunnies, and they're going to have the little bows in their ears or hair, whatever you want to call it. And then you just take the little jute twine and you're going to tie it onto the back of your little frame here. And that way it's going to hang almost like a little garland. I've got some Dollar Tree wired ribbon, and I'm just going to make a very simple figure 8 bow, and I'm going to tie it together with a little tie wrap, and I'm going to place it kind of catty corner on the front of my little wreath form. And since I used tie wraps for everything else to put this wreath together, I'm just going to simply tie wrap my little ribbon right onto the front of my wreath form. And then the very last step on this wreath is to take my Distress Oxide, and I'm also taking that little makeup brush that I've got, and I'm just going to go all around the little bunnies. Of course, all the way around the actual image, I go a little bit darker and then just a little bit lighter on the inside. But since this is Primitive Farmhouse, I had to kind of grunge it up and make it look old and vintagey so that it would match the whole vibe. This wreath was so easy to make, and I hope you guys try to make it. It's super cheap and simple, and you're going to love the way it looks. Stay tuned so you can see my chickens and my little puppy Roxy and my grandson. And if you stuck with me through this whole video, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate every single one of y'all, and I'm so glad that you came and spent some time with me today. And I hope that you guys like that I tried something a little bit out of my comfort zone. And I would like to keep doing a couple of DIYs like this, so let me know what you think. And it just goes to show, don't ever be afraid to try something out of your comfort zone. The worst thing that can happen is you can mess up, but you can always fix it. And I believe in you guys. I know y'all can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice. I believe it or not, a couple of years ago, I had never even done DIYs or crafts before in my whole life. I only started maybe a year before I started my channel. So I haven't been doing it that long. And like I said, I believe in you guys and you can do it. Now, I hope that I can see you back on Monday. If anything happens and my video is not going to be on Monday, I will let you know in the community tab. So be looking for that. And I will see you guys very soon. I hope that every single one of y'all has a blessed weekend and a blessed week next week. I'm sorry, I don't have any mealworms. She's looking in her, that's her mealworm bag. She's looking like, oh, really? But there's a bag. I'm so sorry, Retta. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I love you. See, the bag is empty. The bag is empty, Retta. It's empty. It's empty. That means no mealworms are in there. I'm so sorry. I love you. I'll get you some today, okay? I gotta take Roxy to the vet, and I'll get you some today. Okay, now tell me what you were saying. What is that?
I watched the whoop-de-whoop on the video, and it's so cool. It just goes around.
It does go around. What's it called?
A whoop-de-whoop.
A what?
A whoop-de-whoop.
That's a crazy word. How do you say it?
Whoop-de-whoop.
A whoop-de-whoop.
A whoop-de-whoop. But guess what, Granny?
Hey.
How do you get to this 4 and this? All you have to do is just...
Kason put all this together by himself, by the way.
And there is one part missing.
Oh, we've got a part missing? Oh,
This.
it's over here, right? And it goes right there, and it goes right here.
It goes right here. But somehow you have to get to this, and I figured it out.
I can't believe you put all this together by yourself. You're amazing, Kason. He put all these little connecting pieces together. All where the yellow, the yellow and the orange connect. He put that together. He put the blue. He put these little spinny things that whatever on the other side of the whoop-de-whoop, whatever that little spinny thing is called. He connected every bit of it all by himself because he's amazing. Right, Kason?
Where's this part go?
Let me see.
I can just put it a different place.
It's just got to connect just like this other one did. Like this one right here.
But
It's got to connect just like it, wherever you want it to go.
I want